Carthage is one of the strongest factions in Rome too, and one of the easiest to lose in the first 20 turns. You start powerful, spread across Africa, Sicily and Spain, but you're overstretched, surrounded by enemies, and one mistake lets Rome snowball into a nightmare you can't recover from. In this guide I'll show you the clean, fast way to secure your core, shut Rome down early and turn Carthage into the economic superpower it's supposed to be, all without overcomplicating the campaign.
Your possessions are divided.
Yeah, your possessions are divided, and this is the most important thing to understand playing Carthage. The starting position on paper is actually pretty decent. You have 5 regions and 2 armies and a fleet. On paper this looks actually pretty decent, however, you're all spread out across the western Mediterranean and it's impossible to defend what you start with, never mind start expanding if you want to try to hold on to all of it. You start with a war with Turdetani in far west in Iberia, and it's a tricky one because they have access to very good early units, Iberian swordsmen, like all the other factions in Iberia, and these guys absolutely destroy Libyan hoplites and trade evenly with Carthaginian hoplites, which you don't even have access to on turn 1 until a little bit later, and that also costs 3 times as much in upkeep. So this war is going to be an uphill struggle. Not only that, the culture here is unfriendly because you only own half of this province and public order will be very hard to maintain. The same is the case in Libeum in Sicily, plus all these cities are actually very poor. Look, out of the 2800 profit that we generate every turn, less than 1000 is made by these 4 cities. Therefore, losing the 4 is not the end of the world. In fact, it's inevitable because you need to focus on a single theater. It's not possible to defend Corralis because after taking on Alalia from Etruscans, Rome will come by land. It's not possible to defend Libeum because Syracuse is stronger early game and also Rome can march through their lands. They like each other. And it's definitely not possible to hold on to Iberia as well because all these guys are unfriendly and have better units. So you need to pick one theater to focus on and one theater only. Now it is possible to rush Syracuse, destroy them early and then press into Italia from the south, but this will be uphill struggle because Syracuse have better units and are richer, and Rome has sword units with precursor javelins, and also they recruit 8 or 9 units per turn in Italia. This will be very difficult. It's the same issue with Iberia. Everyone around is of different culture and has better units. Trying to expand here or even defend what you start with is going to be uphill battle. Another reason why it's a trap is that if you try to focus either on Iberia or Italia, your capital itself will be in danger because there are 3 desert factions here that you're inevitably going to end at war with if you try to expand without consolidating Africa first. Initially, you start friendly with Massaicili, but they are landlocked. They can only attack either Nova Carthago, who are our client state, or one of the other desert factions. The problem with desert factions is that they all like each other because it's the same culture. And it's the same issue with Garama. They are not going to attack other desert factions. The only way they can expand is up north into Libya. This means if you either abandon your client states and let these guys grow, or you get involved in endless wars with skirmishing armies of desert tribes, and these are not fun to fight. So what is the way out of this very tricky situation? Because we are inevitably going to find ourselves with multiple wars, war with Rome is inevitable. We can tell that for sure. We start at -200 relations with them, and as soon as they wipe out the Etruscans, they'll turn their attention south on the city of Carthage. Syracuse is also landlocked. They can either attack Rome, who are their friends, or us. We are weaker, and they are less friendly towards us, so that's only a matter of time. So, the right play is actually very counterintuitive. It is to abandon everything but Carthago and consolidate Africa. And we do this by backstabbing our vassals Libya. The only penalty for breaking alliance and attacking your client state is a diplomatic hit. But this doesn't matter. The only thing it prevents us from doing is signing deals with other factions, which we don't care about. We would care if we could trade with anyone else, but we don't even have any trading resource, so trade is not going to make a lot of money. But before we backstab Libya, it is very important to first end the war with Turdetani. Because we are much stronger on turn 1, they are even going to pay us a little bit of coin. You can usually ask them for 500 and they'll agree. And now that we have no wars in Iberia, we can also disband this army. It's costing us 600 gold and it's not contributing. Remember, we decided to abandon this. If someone comes for it, be my guest, these two cities are only making 400 gold between them, and the public order here is really bad. However, the moment someone declares war, make sure to actually dismantle the ports. First of all, you don't want to let the enemy take over tier 2 buildings. Secondly, you do get a little bit of a percentage of their cost back into your treasury by dismantling them. And it's the same with Libyum and Coralis. They are simply impossible to defend, so just don't worry about them. Now, the only other thing you want to do before backstabbing Libya is getting trade agreement with Cyrenaica. This is the only faction that agrees to it. It's not worth a lot, but it's something. And the most important trick of them all, make desert factions fight each other. Because both Massaicili and Garama will inevitably attack either you or your client states, the best way to buy yourselves a little bit of time is make them fight each other. So, what you want to do is declare war on Garama first. And now, ask Massaicili to kindly join. They agree every single time, because they like us. Now these two factions fight each other. Usually Massaicili wins this, but it's going to take them about a dozen turns or so, which is very important because it now lets us focus on Libya. Okay, we drop to unreliable, which is absolutely fine. Now, taking Thapsus is easy. They have 4 javelins, including the fleet. Mob doesn't count, and 2 hoplites. We start with 2 Libyan hoplites, which are only going to be used to pin in place their hoplites, but it's very important to replace a general with elephant general, and also hire a mercenary cavalry. Grab 1 Scutari Cav. It's an excellent medium cavalry, and even though odds look very unfavorable right now, Scutari Cav is enough to destroy all 4 ranged units. Libyan hoplites will pin their 2 hoplites in place and let Elephant and Scutari Cav flank and rear charge them and destroy them. This is an easy battle if you play this manually, and if you want to auto-resolve you need to load up on more mercs. Now, once you take Thapsus, it's very important that next turn you put Hannibal back in charge of elephants and move all the way to the border, which is somewhere here, and recruit more units while also bringing the fleet closer. Because what you want to do is set up attack on Lepsis for turn 3. And the only way to do it is you end the movement right at the border, on the very edge of it, because this is the only spot where you can still recruit and then double time to be within reinforcement range, and you'll attack with the fleet. The fleet will move here on turn 2 and attack on turn 3. This lets you take Lepsis on turn 3, and Libya will be down to Macomades, their last city, but they will be recruiting, so ideally you want to be recruiting every turn 2, even though you only have these uninspiring troops, because you will need numbers. Then on turn 4, you set up attack by moving closer to the border again, and attack with a fleet and support with Hannibal. What this lets you achieve is take control of Africa province, which is one of the best, if not the best province in the game. It's got 4 regions, 4 ports, every single one of these cities has a port, and very useful provincial bonus, 25% wealth from all commerce. Now, on top of your faction trade of 15% wealth from all commerce buildings, this means you get extra 40% wealth from every single harbor and other commerce building. Look, at tier 3, which is very easy to get, these trading ports generate 360 gold, and with bonus, this becomes around 500 gold per port. Absolutely amazing. Another reason to take Africa first is because Libya is of the same culture, so there'll be no public order penalties. I even suggest increasing taxes to very high, and the reasoning is simple. All these other provinces, all these other regions will break away anyway. It's impossible to hold them, so might as well squeeze them out through higher taxation as much as possible, and this in turn will fuel development of Africa and military. Okay, so it's turn 5, we consolidated Africa. What do we do next? Well, it's very important to get ready for attacks from Rome and Syracuse, and the best way to beat them is on our terms. Remember, Syracuse have access to pikes much easier than we do, and Rome has sword units which generally beat spear units of the same tier easily. We do not want to fight either of them on land. It's much easier and safer to fight them at sea. And the best way to do this is sink their incoming transport fleets with artillery fleet. So as soon as you have 2000 gold and nothing best to spend it on, start repurposing the shipwright into military wharf, because tier 2 military wharf enables artillery ships. At the very least, artillery fleet made of 4 ballistas and 2 Libyan javelinman ships, which will act as decoys, plus a general, is enough to sink a full stack of transport ships from Rome or Syracuse. Basically park it in Carthage, and it should be enough to defend the city, as long as the attack comes from the sea. while making a fortune from releasing prisoners. Okay, then what our priorities should be after we take control of Africa? Well, assuming Massaisili will be still fighting with Garama. Oh, by the way, once you drag Massaisili into war with Garama, and before you attack Libya, you want to sign peace with Garama. The door is open and they'll even pay us some money. 600 gold is absolutely fine, they'll pay more before you attack Libya because you'll only have one war, and this counts for AI in assessing deals. Now that you've consolidated Africa, you want to go for Fazania next. This is a nice province with only 2 regions, but it's very nicely stashed away at the very south of the map. So backstabbing Garama again, taking their capital, and then Sidamus, if Massaisili didn't take it already, is the next step. And then pressing further west, attacking Massaisili and taking the whole province of Mauritania. This province is amazing. It's probably even better than Africa because it has 3 ports, very important resource building here in Migdol, which are snails, giving up to +6 public order everywhere and massive wealth, and Tingis is an excellent choke point protecting you from Iberian tribes. Now in terms of research, I strongly recommend going for military first. The reason is the starting troops of Carthage are absolute crap. These Libyan hoplites and Libyan javelin men are only half decent against desert tribes, but they are not going to hold the line at all against either Syracuse pikes or Roman or Iberian swords. So what we absolutely need is tier 2 barracks, which gives access to excellent Carthaginian cavalry, as well as Periokos camp, which increases our recruitment capacity and gives access to Libyan peltas, which are very decent units with serviceable melee stats, good armor and 7 javelins. After grabbing this, I suggest getting engineering and building workshop in Carthago, and as the next priority, going for Sidonian rights. This unlocks hoplite barracks, giving access to African elephants, very good mid-tier pikes and very good mid-tier sword Libyan infantry, which is as good, if not better, as Roman principes and triari. Only then, once you have a strong core of pikes and Libyan infantry and flanks secured by Carthaginian cavalry and elephants, I recommend going to war with Rome, as you'll easily be able to win land battles even against a larger force. Until then, focus on controlling Africa, countering Rome by having a strong fleet in Carthago. In terms of economy, building toll in Carthage is the way to go. 1 military wharf in Carthago and 3 trading ports in the other 3 cities here will form a backbone of economy. However, consider piracy. Unless you control the whole sea, you'll get massive penalty to commercial income from ports because of piracy. Now, early game, I wouldn't worry about trade. Trade without resources is barely worth it. However, once you obtain even the timber from Eel, it absolutely makes sense to send a ship or 2 all the way east to meet all the Greek factions because they are very willing to trade, and start making fortune that way. Now, in terms of where to expand after taking control of Africa, Fazania and Mauritania, you have 2 directions, either expanding into Iberia, which is generally one of the richest parts of the world, with multiple resources, wine, olives, horses and marble, that again can very nicely fuel trade with the rest of the world. Plus it's defensible. It's a relatively narrow choke point, couple of choke points here in the north, while bordering Gauls, or, which is probably most people's preferred course of action, invade Sicily and then Italia. Once you have tier 3 units, personally I would not wait any longer and just invade Rome. With superior military, this should be a walk in the park. Alright, now, how to organize your military and how to approach mercs. Well, early game you only have access to Libyan hoplites. This is the upgraded version which you get after researching Sidonian rights, but unupgraded version is not worth recruiting. Only get them during the first few turns of the game. As soon as you have tier 2 barracks built, fully switched to Carthaginian hoplites. These units are actually very decent. This is the light version again, but they are on par with Greek hoplites, very solid against anything you'll be fighting in Africa, against the desert factions, and can trade evenly with Hastati and Iberian swords, although it's more expensive, as well as a little bit of Carthaginian cavalry. This is expensive unit, so maybe only get 2 per stack, but it's very good cavalry. Once you build Periokos camp, it's also worth getting Libyan peltas. These guys are excellent. They have serviceable melee stats and 7 precursor javelins, as well as 65 base armor, making them really good against all sorts of threats, plus javelins counter elephants and chariots hard. So for early game, once you have tier 2 units unlocked, I would go with Elephant General, 1 Ballista, 3 Peltasts, 2 or 3 cavalries, and everything else should be Carthaginian hoplites. These guys are not great, but they have big stats and they are very serviceable early game. For mid game, which should be about turn 25 to 30 once you have access to tier 3 barracks, I would go with a core of 4 African pikemen, flanked by 6 Libyan infantries. These guys are excellent, they are as good as Principes, if not better, for a strong front line of 10 melee units. Don't bother with noble cavalry, it's very expensive and it's not that great. Just stick with Carthaginian cavalry. The sole purpose of these guys is to destroy enemy shooters and recharge the enemy, and they do this almost as well as noble cav. Go with 2 Carthaginian cavs and 2 elephants, one of each on each flank. And for the range department, still go with 1 ballista, but replace your Libyan peltasts, if money allows, with these brutes. Mercenary Balearic Slingers. These guys are amazing. They are priced like elite units, 220 gold in upkeep. Early game they cost even more, about 300, so only start hiring them when your economy is strong, because they are absolute drain on resources, and you can get a couple of hoplites for the price of one of these guys. However, as Carthage, one of your faction traits is 25% mercenary upkeep cost reduction, plus on the way to tier 3 units, you'll also grab mercenaries, giving another 15% upkeep cost reduction. This is 40%, this is already moving a needle. However, on top of that, if you join noble or judge to an army, make him specialize in upkeep reduction, not to mention generals actually have a skill here, mercenary contracts that can shave another up to 12% of mercenary recruitment cost. Now, if you stack all these bonuses in a single army, it's entirely possible to reach 0 maintenance on mercenaries, and this is where your late game army kicks in. You can actually pile on elites. I would still go with a core of 4 pikes, some elephants and a ballista, but everything else can be mercs, since they now become affordable. Replace Carthaginian cavalry with noble horse. This is one of the best melee cavs in the game. Get 2 of them. Replace Libyan infantry with noble fighters. These are excellent, one of the best elite swords, and load up on Balearic Slingers. I don't even recommend going for tech that unlocks tier 4 barracks for Carthage, as you only get African war elephants, which are only slightly better than ordinary African elephants, and the Sacred Band, which is a pretty uninspiring elite hoplite unit, and massively eclipsed by noble fighter mercenaries. In terms of techs, once you get tier 3 units and engineering, I recommend focusing on philosophy tree. This is the best tree to get public order under control, as well as increase your taxing. And once you start trading with Greeks and obtain glass, I recommend going for cultural assimilation and building academies in every single provincial capital. They provide 24% research boost. 4 of them essentially doubles your research. So your victory conditions, perfectly achievable by mid-game, are to take hold of whole Africa province by turn 5, then expand into Fazania, that should take you about another 5 turns, then maybe spend another 10 or so taking control of Mauritania, either by wiping out Migdol and Massaisili, who will own it by then, or if Nova Carthago still exists, just backstab them just as you did with Libya, with a core 10 regions across 3 provinces, multiple ports and finally trading resource. Your economy will be flourishing. And by that time you should also get online Sidonian rights and tier 3 barracks, letting you finally build armies that can compete with Rome. But remember to build strong fleets with at least 4 artillery ships each, to be able to easily sink any incoming transport fleets from Rome and Syracuse to actually protect your capital. And with pikes, elephants and elite mercs, beating Rome is a formality, and once you own Magna Graecia and Italia, another 2 amazing provinces, rich and full of resources, the campaign is effectively won. This is how you do it. Subscribe!